Good morning, Christy. Can you hear us?
Good morning. Yes, I can.
Excellent. Thank you. We got you on the loudspeakers on the TV, 75 inches HD, looking good. We're just preparing early, make sure we're in the class.
All right. You guys are in the green. Good job.
Yes, sir. All right, everybody will be loading in about 8 minutes.
Yeah, let me know once you get everyone in there. And then
Yes, sir.
9:15 we'll get started.
Perfect. Christy, we're loaded in here, just so you know.
Okay. Cadillac, you're good. Fadi, turn
Cadillac's
your
tight.
speaker on.
Yeah.
Pinkney team, you can hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
All right. We'll give another 30 seconds here and we'll get started. Okay. I got 9:15, so let's get going. Chevy, you guys are good over there? Fadi, can you hear me? Looks like they're messing with something, so let's give them a minute here to figure out the sound. Says the mic is on.
Oh, the night sky. Can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you.
You were live now. He figured
All
it
right,
out.
you're live. We're cooking. All right, let's get going. Welcome everyone to our Genesis March go-to-market call. Same format as what we had last month. So we'll get into a performance review, then we'll get into a couple of different topics that we want to discuss for March. So without further ado, let's go. February performance. Let's start with that. Take a look at it. We know that February in the car business is always a challenging month. And I think that rings true for this past February. We got a couple of call outs, and then we'll do our winner for the crown that I have here. Collected it from Cadillac yesterday and see who gets it for this month. So starting at the top, let's talk about Cadillac. Well, again, we're looking at total sales department, new and used, gross as a percentage of target achievement, and we're looking at that for February. So nice job to the Cadillac team. You guys finished 101% to objective. That's outstanding work. So way to go, guys. I know that it was a full team effort, and it shows in your number there. Chevy, you guys finished at 103, just beat out the Cadillac team. And again, over that 100% threshold. So outstanding job. Way to go. Again, I know that was a full team effort for you guys. Pinckney running out the third place there at 48%. So our crown's gonna go to Chevy. You guys get to keep that crown for the month. I'll come by later today and drop it off. And then you got to find a cool spot to put that. So way to go. Nice job. On an individual performance, let's look at our top 3 performers for February. Starting with our first place, Cameron Miller. Way to go. We'll look at your numbers here in just a minute. Second place, Vincent. And third place, we had Lane. So Chevy and Cadillac taking our top 3 places there. Salesperson performance ranking report. Looking at the numbers there on the screen, you can see our top 3 in green. 27.5 for Cameron, Vincent at 24, and Lane at 16.5 units. Second column is going to be your calendar year to date. And then your yellow and your gray columns that follow is your percentage to either the senior level or to the executive level. So we had a pretty good shakeup from what we had in January. We had some people moving up the list, which was a nice change. First time that we had some good movement. I've been tracking this for a few months, and this was kind of our first overall jumbled up movement. So nice job to those that moved up, and those that moved down. Now is the opportunity here in March to find your swing again. So let's look at it, kind of how we can help you do that with our game plan. March's game plan for 2026 here is going to be the words, execute, 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 execute. Spring is here, and so is the time to seize our opportunities, like it says there on the slide. We know that buyers typically are coming out of that deep freeze here in Michigan and moving about and getting going, and you got some good things working towards the car buying season. From the standpoint of the dealerships, we got a well-stocked inventory across all dealerships right now. And we got some attractive payments that are going on, and we worked on getting you guys another qualified lead source that is showing some results and some pretty strong numbers. And hopefully you've recognized that too with these trade pending leads, that you've got quite a good opportunity with the leads that are coming through there. So we need to make sure we're working those. We had the trainer out last week coming to the stores. If you missed that training or if you need a refresher, please ask for help because we walk through the dashboard. We walk through how to tackle those leads and go about them. The other part of our game plan for this month is going to be, discipline. And what we mean by that is, are we in our work plans consistently, and are we following a process with that? We had mentioned last month about the usage of digital tools like Facebook Marketplace, like CarFilm, and then you had that new tool that came about with Trade Pending in the auto bios. So it's one thing to do it every now and then, and yeah, I'll give it a shot. I got nothing else going on, but the discipline day in and day out to be able to work those things and work them effectively and efficiently is what we're looking for March. And part of that discipline too is going to be our deal jackets. You know, I'll say it again, and you guys hear me say it when I come to the stores. You know, we need to be on our A game when it comes to putting our paperwork together and things like that. So, you know, hopefully we can do that and make sure that we're, you know, we're all over stuff like that. 1 second, let's see what we got. Can you guys see the screen that I'm on right now? PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay.
Chris
Just
G,
making-
for us, it's showing, we're seeing the next slide next to the main slide that you're on currently. I don't know if everybody's seen it like that.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, let's see if we can change that for you.
Unfortunately, we had a spoiler and seen the Chevy boys beat us before you announced it.
Oh man, so you got a little sneak peek, huh?
Yeah,
I think they paid off Chris.
yeah, they might have paid you off a bit.
Yeah. Hey, I can't say nothing.
Watch it.
All right, let's see if we can fix that. Let's go display. Let's see if we can swap. How about now? Can you just see the one slide?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
I like you got closed captioning on now too. This is good.
Okay, how about now? Is that off?
Perfect.
We're just playing with all the tools this morning.
Yeah, this is good.
All right. Talking about deal jacket again. You know, we got to slow down to go fast, right? You know, we can't be going back. They have to fix mistakes and then having to redo things. So let's make sure, you know, we're getting all those things on the checklist that we talk about. Driver's license, making sure it's a current license, current insurance, registration, our GMS, or getting our EP numbers and doing all those things that we know we need to do. So it's time to go ahead and execute our game plan for March. Okay, our learning activity that we're going to go through this month is, well, and I guess first there's going to be our question here of who painted the Mona Lisa? Put your answers in the chat. Let's see who can get that one. Who painted the Mona Lisa? Who's got fast fingers? Okay, Da Vinci, Cadillac, you were on it. You hit that one. Nice job to you guys. Let's flip our display. Okay, Leonardo da Vinci. So let's get going into our actual learning activity. You know, second step of the process is what we're talking about today. Okay, customer needs and wants discovery. And there's going to be a star at the top of it because arguably this is the most important step of the sales process. If you do this step properly and correctly, then we know that we can set up the rest of the process for what we're looking to accomplish from there. So some highlights we need to talk about, you know, first and foremost, why is it so important to conduct a proper and thorough needs and wants assessment? If you don't want to take it from my words, you know, look at one of the most famous people of our current generation, and Steve Jobs, and here's what he had to say about him. You know, your customers don't care about you. They don't care about your product. They really don't care about your service either. They care about themselves, their dreams, their goals. And they will care much more if you help them reach their goals. And to do that, you must understand their goals as well as their needs and deepest desires, right? We're selfish by nature. And if I don't see how you can help me achieve what I'm looking to, then to be honest, I really don't have time for you, you know, when it comes to that buying type of scenario. So we have to make sure that we're doing that proper presentation in needs and wants analysis. On the left-hand side here, how we can do that is, well, first and foremost, we need to keep control of the sales process. You know, if we let the customer dictate when things happen in the order that they happen, then we're gonna be at the customer's mercy, and they don't know what it takes to do what we do on a day in and day out basis. If they just come into the store all of a sudden and now, oh yep, I want to go on a test drive of this car, and after I think I want to test drive a truck, and then I want to test drive maybe a sedan, we're letting the customer move us all over the place. We need to be the ones to be professionals and follow the process. And then two, recognize the fact that part of doing a proper needs and wants analysis, whether it be on the phone, text, email, in person, is that you're starting to build on a relationship with the person, and you're starting to break down those emotional defense walls. Customers know when they come in to buy a car that negotiating is part of the process. It's not like going to Kroger, right? Where you buy your gallon of milk, you check out, and you move on to anything twice about it. Buy a car, they know there's some negotiating as part of this process. And part of that process is building trust and respect for one another. And the rule of thumb is that 70% are going to buy from someone they like, they respect, and or they trust. And we know that trust takes time to develop, right? This doesn't happen instantly. So by doing your meet and greet like we talked about last month, having that good first impression sets you up to be able then to have a proper needs and wants analysis where you can start to engage the customer on what they're after and what their goals are. It's going to give confidence to the customer that they're dealing with a professional, right? People want to know that, hey, I'm dealing with someone that knows what they're talking about. Buying a car, as we know, is for most people the second largest purchase they make in their lifetime. So it's a pretty big deal. And we want to be able to deal with a professional, just like when you go buy a house. I don't do that every day, and neither do most of you. So when you're in that scenario, you want someone that knows what they're doing, and you're dealing with a real estate agent that can be able to not only walk you through the house properly, knows the market, but also when it comes to the paperwork side and putting stuff together in the proper manner. And the last bullet point there, it shows that you have vested concern or interest in the customer's pain points. People don't like being out in the open and being on their own. They want to be with people that understand them, that get where they're at. And we can show that we are in a vested concern position with them. It's only going to build on that trust even more. Some quick bullet points there on the right-hand side. When we don't do this step properly and we skip it all together, then the customer doesn't have an opportunity to get to know us. And trust really can't be built. And those emotional defense walls are going to stay up. We know that part of our sales process is building value not only in the product that we sell, but also in us as a trusted advisor for the customer. So if we skip it, it really doesn't have an opportunity to be built. The customer doesn't believe you have their best interest in mind. And they may start taking control of the process because they feel like you're not doing that for them. And now they feel like they have to step into the driver's seat. And again, that's when you start to get into scenarios where things happen that we necessarily don't want. If the customer doesn't have a proper needs and wants analysis, then their perception of the situation becomes the reality, right? And I guess what I'm trying to get across with that is, if we know that buying a car, you have to go through these steps, we just know it because we do it every day. Customer doesn't do it every day. If they don't know the following steps that have to happen, then they may have a totally different expectation in their mind. And now you two are not in the same path, and we're not talking the same thing. And if you don't know what the customer cares about, then you possibly have a way of going that is in the right direction, and you can show them the wrong car. And then we're showing them cars that don't make sense or aren't the right thing. And now you have to overcome objections possibly on the wrong car. And we call those, fake objections, where the objection isn't real because the root of it is it's not the right car. So there's a lot of good benefits to doing it, and there's a lot of consequences for not doing it. Here's your warning sign: don't skip it. Whether, again, this be on the phone and you're talking to somebody and you're getting some information, you try to go for that appointment, and maybe they said no off the first rip. Instead of you giving up right away and hanging up the phone, you give it another crack. But instead of asking for it immediately again, you start to build a little bit of rapport with the customer, a little bit of conversation so you can ask for that appointment and they see value in why they should be dealing with you. 94% of customers will not buy if you spend less than 1 hour with them. Again, I didn't make that up, but that's a stat that's out there that customers are telling you and showing you the fact that I'm going to buy from you. I got to know you. I want to trust you. And it takes time for that to develop. So part of this customer needs and wants analysis is also, having those proper listening skills. I put this picture here on there because I thought it was pretty funny, but it's true. Oh, you only have 7K to spend on a car. Well, here's a $30,000 car. Right? We didn't really listen to the customer then in that scenario. Right? Here's the car that I want to sell you versus hearing what they have to say and then listening for those cues about where we can fill the gap or where we can fill the void and be able to provide the value for them. So an example that I put on the slide here was simply, if a customer says to you, I'm just hoping you can help me, what could they really be saying? Maybe it means any one of these different bullet points that are listed. Hey, I never bought a car before, or I've been to several other dealerships and no one's paid any attention to me. Or I make my payments to X and I'm 3 months behind, or I'm over mileage on my lease or something along those lines. I owe more than my car's worth, right? And I know that I'm in a tough situation, or hey, I've got some credit challenges or blemishes, and I'm hoping that you can help me find the right car. When we listen for these little things like that, it only becomes more valuable to us later on when we do begin negotiating on pricing and the deal structure and things like that. And we can relate those scenarios back to this listening part and the needs and wants analysis about what the customer may have told us from the beginning. Hey, remember when you told me you were just hoping that I could help you? Well, good news is I can, right? I may not have the car you necessarily want, but this is the car that's going to fit your situation for what you told me you were looking to accomplish. And we can work towards that car later down the road, possibly. So we have to make sure that we're using those listening skills. For me, one of the easiest ways to do that is by writing notes, writing stuff out and be able to categorize my thoughts. So here's a simple formula that you can use or diagram, and I'll send this PowerPoint out so you have it. But when you're talking to somebody, again, whether it be on the phone or in person, you got a notepad, you got something that you want to write with. Put on there what the customer says, these are my requirements. These are like the non-negotiables, right? I have to have remote start, or I have to have all-wheel drive, or I have to have X, Y, and Z. And not saying they won't move off of those because we know that we can possibly do that. But these are the things that you at least got to stick around. Then you get those desires, right? These are the wants. I want to have a V8, or I want to be able to have a sunroof. Whatever those things are that maybe aren't as important, we can put those off to the side. And then their buying style. As you start to talk to the customer, get to know them a little bit about what's their purchasing behavior like. Are they someone that you're getting the feeling, or they've told you about some other purchases they made recently that, hey, they're impulsive. If they see it, they like it, they're going to buy it. Or are they someone that's a little bit more analytical? They're going to take their time. They need to let it sink in a little bit. If it's someone that's there at the dealership with you, are they the only decision maker, or is there more people involved that are going to make this decision? And it's okay to ask, ask some of these questions. Hey, how do you go about purchasing a car? How did you go about buying your last car? And that way you can start getting this information. So if you have all parties present, you probably got a good shot at closing the deal. Or if one of the persons is missing, then maybe we can get the person on a phone call or FaceTime, because if you try and just sell it to that individual that's there in person, you may not get it done. And then you got to know their buying motives, right? What's the real reason that they're looking to make this purchase today? Is it their lease is due in a month, a week, a day? Maybe they recently totaled out their vehicle, maybe they're downsizing or they're upsizing. I don't know. But those are the things that we can stick to, again, as we're negotiating and remind the customer why they're here and why this purchase makes sense from there. So, I encourage you at the bottom there, it talks about doing this exercise individually when you get some time. Do it for yourself. What are 3 or 4 requirements you have in a car? What are 3 or 4 desires that you got? What's your buying style look like? Do you even know how you go about your purchase? It's hard to identify in someone else when you can't do it, for yourself. And what motivates you to make a purchase? How do you go about it? What would cause you to want to get out of your current vehicle into something else? But it's a good way to organize your thoughts. And as we're looking to be as detailed as possible with understanding our customer, it's a simple way to do that. And here's a good way to summarize this learning activity up in one short little article. So Jeb Blunt, some of you have heard me talk about him before. He's a sales expert. He's a sales trainer. He's got a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of good information out there. But his wife was interested in buying a car. And this was her experience and how things went. So starting here on the top left, last year my wife purchased a new Jeep Grand Cherokee. She did her research up front. Before she even walked into the dealership, she knew more about Jeep Grand Cherokees than the people selling them. That sounds like it's pretty often how things go, right? So she knew exactly what she wanted: silver, dark leather interior, navigation, and a sunroof. She compared prices across multiple dealers, and her research was neatly arranged in a folder. The only thing left was the test drive. She began the buying process in early July, and on her last Friday in August, she parked her new white Jeep Grand Cherokee with a light tan interior and no sunroof or navigation system in her driveway. After all the research and nearly 2 months of going back and forth with the dealership, in the end, illogically, she drove away with the vehicle that did not match what she had wanted. When I confronted my wife, somewhat tongue-in-cheek, about how she ended up with a white SUV when she had her heart set on a silver one, she was incredulous. "Wipe that smirk off your face," she demanded. "Another dealership had the car I wanted, but it was 30 minutes down the road, and I didn't have the time to drive all the way down there." "What about the sunroof and nav?" I asked. "Well, everyone knows that sunroofs can leak, and I'll just use my phone for navigation. It's easier anyway." "Why are you grinning at me? I made a good deal," she said. On the right-hand side, let's break it down. So what happened? Well, we get AJ, the car-selling Jedi Master. I've been watching my wife's buying process from beginning to end, and I knew better. I was grinning because of my admiration for AJ, the sales rep who sold her the SUV. His sales process with my wife had been masterful. Carrie first met AJ in early July on her test drive. When she came home, she went on and on about AJ. "AJ showed me this. AJ showed me that. AJ suggested that I take a car home for the weekend to see how I like it. AJ thinks the Grand Cherokee is a great SUV for the money." Over the next 7 weeks, AJ systematically built a connection, earned my wife's trust, and gained influence over her buying behavior. He never pushed. He was never cheesy. He listened and made her feel important. He was transparent, honest, and consistent. Most importantly, he answered the 5 most important questions buyers ask of salespeople. Do I like you? Do you listen to me? Do you make me feel important? Do you get me? Do I trust and believe in you? Again, going back to that Steve Jobs quote that I shared with you, me is what should be screaming out to you. It's all about me. With these questions answered affirmatively, when it came time for her to pull the trigger, Carrie bought AJ, not the SUV. On the surface, she justified the compromise she made on the specs with logic. But I knew the truth. Deep down inside, she could not bring herself to let AJ down by going to another dealership, even though they had the model she liked the most. And I'm sure some of you are thinking about past experiences you've had with customers. Some customers, they may want a specific car. Totally understand that. But most people are going to buy from you. You are the most valuable piece of this. So we got to build that trust in the very beginning. So my closing comments on this, we need to seize every opportunity. Right now, we're again in that March selling season. We're kicking things off. We need to make the most of it. And for stores that may have fallen behind, now is the time to catch back up and even push further ahead. We need to find those reasons for customers to buy. Discipline is going to equal better results. If you're just flying by the seat of your pants, it's not going to work. Needs and wants analysis is a vital step, right, of the selling process. We need to listen to what customers are actually saying and ask clarifying questions if we're unsure. So we're going to go back to my customer success story here, just like we did last month. And let's see if we can pull someone that can share with us an experience they had last month that was a positive experience with the customer. All right, Clarice, looks like you're up.
Miss Russell is not here today.
All right, let's pull again.
It's gonna be Tesla.
Yeah, I'll do it.
All right, Dennis, what you got for us?
Story for last month.
Story from last month. Give us a customer success story, something that positive happened.
Billy Pope.
Billy Hall, brother and sister. Yeah.
Oh, brother and sister.
You may have to get a little closer to the computer.
You gotta go up here, D.
Stage.
Believe me.
It could be, I've got old customers that come in every now and then. He came in to get a price to just sell his truck outright, and he leased a new truck.
Amazing. I'm happy.
Nice job, right? Customer came in, wanted to sell their vehicle. Dennis was able to not only get him to sell his vehicle, obviously, but then to buy something else.
He drove away in a new truck.
Brand new truck. Okay, and I'm glad you brought that up because we see quite a few of those leads coming through that they're a trade only lead. And if we just, yeah, no problem, we can do that, right? And take the quick, easy, we'll buy the vehicle. Obviously, we know that as a salesperson, you get paid the $200. If you buy a street buy, and we'll certainly take that. But Dennis was able to turn that into a car deal, and the guy was able to buy a car too. Are we asking the questions of customers? Hey, are you looking to just get rid of this vehicle because you don't need a vehicle anymore? Or is there something else that you're looking to replace it with? Taking the time to ask those questions is important. So thank you for sharing, Dennis. All right. That kind of wraps up our PowerPoint. So any questions, anything that anybody has? I'll check the chat here. See what we got. Nothing. Okay. All right. Well, then thank you guys for attending and participating. Again, congrats to our top 3 performers. And I'll end it here with this quick little quote. My mission in life is to not merely to survive, but to thrive, and to do so with some passion, some compassion, some humor, and some style. Right? So let's make March a great month. And Chevy, I'll be by later today with your crown. So thank you.
Cameron and I'll see you next month, boys.
I've never heard of longest ever. You even feel rap. Would you know? Pops in it.
All right, we need to stop the recording. Stop recording.